Alright, hey everyone, this is Ash. Welcome back to the King's Speech. So like I promised last weekend, I'm going to finish off the original run of Battle Angel Alita this weekend. I apologize if there's going to be a little bit of lens flare and things when I'm holding up the volume covers and things to the camera because I have my windows open today to let the natural sunlight in, so there might be a bit of glare on the cameras, but I apologize, but for the most part it should be okay. So yeah, like I said, like I promised last week, I will finish off Battle Angel Alita first before I dive into any of the other current read-throughs I'm doing right now. So just a few quick updates before we get into it. So I know someone pointed out to me last week that I should stop at chapter 51 of the current run and then move on to Last Order because apparently the ending was the original ending was retcon from this one to Last Order, and so I shouldn't read that initially. So that is going to be my current plan going through this. If anyone feels differently, or if you want to agree with that recommendation of going through up to chapter 51, I think my good friend, the Black Manga Critic, and as well as Michael and Justine on Twitter also told me to stop at chapter 51. So yeah, unless there's something to the contrary to that, please let me know. But otherwise, that will be my stopping point. I'll try to get through to that point today with just one video, but that might depend on what the timing looks like, because it looks like it's going to be about 150 pages to get through it. So I might just make this an extra long video just to power through the climax, but we'll see as it goes. Without further ado, let's dive into Battle Angel Alita with Chapter 48, No Brainer. And we pick up where we left off the last time with Desti looking up in shock as Alita's managed to wake herself up from the little coma he put her in. And Alita's just kind of looking down at him disdainfully. And Desti's about to just like orgasm, where he's like, brilliant, beautiful. And Chaos is also just staring at her in shock and surprise, as is Bigot. And then, for the life of me, I cannot remember what his assistant's name is, but I'm going to call him Hookman. Comes up from behind her with a schnar. And Alita, without looking, just does a roundhouse kick right behind her, smashes his face, and just explodes his brains everywhere. And you see Desti just running off with a dash as this is going on. And you see, yeep, as he said, blam, blam, blam. And Alita plants 3 perfect shots into the wall right in front of him before he stops. And you see another crack. He goes, aye, as he lifts up his foot, as Alita just starts making him dance around a bit. And he slams his back against the wall with a wham. And Alita just sits there cross-legged on the table going, hello, Professor Nova. I've been looking for you. You see Bigot yelling at her from the camera going, stop this, A1. Harm one hair on his head and you will never be forgiven. And he's just tapping away on the computer going, damn, the system's still frozen. And Chaos goes, no, Alita, don't listen to him. He struck a deal with Father and abandoned you to die. Father is a demon who brings nothing but pain and misery into the world. Don't hesitate. Pull the trigger and kill him now. Alita's like, Chaos. And Desti's just like, pain? Misery? I was providing worthless human beings their proper value. I don't deserve this slander. If anything, you should be praising. And Alita just runs up and just bitch slaps Desti to the side as he finishes off with a me and a thwam. And he goes, aye, as he holds his hand up to his bloodied mouth as he goes flying sideways. And he's like, ah. And you see just blood dripping down his face. Alita puts her gun away. She's like, how frail. She comes and just stamps on his face and goes, the thought that I've been dragged around by such a pathetic weakling all this time makes me furious. And Bigot's just starting to foam at the mouth as he's getting angrier and angrier. Going, curse your hide, A1. You are a mechanical imposter. Your entire being is not worth a single brain cell from Professor Nova's mind. If you do not pull back this instant, I will brand you a traitor and send in the AR series to summarily execute you. And Alita's just completely unfazed. She's like, bring it on. I'll destroy every last one of those fake replicas. And Biggest just completely shocked that his half-assed threat didn't work. And Chaos like, she's stronger. Whatever happened, she's not the same Alita as yesterday. And she goes, And Dusty's like, eep. And she goes, beg for your life if you must, but I will not spare it. And then Dusty's like, no, I can't stand the thought of never tasting flan again. And then he just stands up with the sun. It's like, oh, what about Ito? And with a whoop, Alita goes tick as she's about to right, and she stops herself right before she's pulling the trigger. And he goes, did you run into Ito? Alita just gets mad. And she just lands a hard kick right between his legs and sends him flying upwards. And she goes, I ought to thank you. You kept your word. You brought Ito back to life. Now tell me, what is the secret of the Zalemites? And then Alita's like, the knowledge of that secret is what broke Ito. And she thinks back to the video that Ito recorded after he regained his memories and before he decided to wipe them. Dusty's like, hehehe. And Biggest's like, secret of the Zalemites? What does she mean? And Dusty just wipes the blood off his lips and he goes, and what exactly would a surface dweller like you do with that knowledge? And Alita goes, I don't actually care about Zalem. I just want to know exactly what it was that tormented Ito. And Dusty goes, very well, then I shall show you. And he takes that little curved knife of his and he pulls the trigger and starts to vibrate with the vroom. And he goes, the secret of Zalem that turned Ito into an invalid. What the hell? So he takes the thing to his knife to his own head and starts cutting into his scalp. And you see the blood just spraying out. And everyone's just looking at in shock as this is going on. Like, what? Professor! And Dusty's just like, yeah! Feast your eyes upon this. And he takes off his scalp and holds it in his hand. And then you see the true form of the Zalemite mind. What in the hell is this? Okay, so there's the other way, there we go. There's what it looks like inside the head. So it looks like, what the fuck? Okay, so it looks like there's a small depression in the brain where it's been completely carved out. And you've got this little chip implant with like this tiny microbrain that literally looks like a ball sack in the middle of his head. So it looks like he's got a ball sack attached to a computer in the middle of his head. Alita's like, it's empty. Where is your brain? And Biggest even just completely in shock. And he just sweat streaming down his face. And he goes, can you see that tiny biochip in the center? It is handling all of the functions of the brain. Zalem's children are born through a strict eugenics program. They undergo many tests, intelligence, mentality, personality, physical, etc., before age 19 when they have their initiation and receive the mark of Zalem citizenship on their foreheads. That initiation process is a surgery that removes the brain and embeds a chip with all of the subject's memories copied onto it. And you see, eugenics, an area of science dedicated to improving human genetics. It is designed to remove unwanted genetic structures and preserve superior ones. So you see this little experimental chamber, surgery room where there's this person strapped to a chair and they've cut open the brain and they just pulled it out of their skull. And you see Bigga just like shaking hands going up to the mark, Zalemite mark, on his forehead. And Dusty puts his little skull cap back on. He goes, the truth of this process is entirely hidden by the Medical Inspection Bureau. And Alita's like, what in the... Are you even human? And when he hears this, Bigot just gasps. And Dusty's like, cogito ergo sum. I think, therefore I am. It's rather cold comfort in this case, isn't it? But you have a biological brain and mechanical body, while we have mechanical brains and biological bodies. It's nothing more than difference in combination. And Alita's thinking, Ito, Lu, why would Salem do such a thing? And you see, cogito ergo sum is a rule proposed by the French philosopher René Descartes that concludes that even if all other information were an illusion, the ability to think proves one's existence. It is a rather shallow idea. So Dusty continues, these brain chips regulate and standardize the citizenship's abilities and allow for perfect management of the city with absolutely no stress. However, there are very rare cases of faulty brain chips, people like me and Ito who lose the brakes meant to keep us in line. And I think this is Alita going, so what is Salem? Who built it and why? Sadly, I do not have the answers. Oh, that might be Dusty continuing. Sadly, I do not have the answers to these questions. My only working hypothesis is that Salem is an enormous experiment, and that we Salemites are merely its guinea pigs. And you have, I think this is Chaos going, learning this fact led Father to flee Salem and begin his research on karma. And Alita is just completely stunned by this news, and Dusty's got that stupid, doofy grin on his face. And you have Bigot just screaming to him, this is a lie! My mind is run by a machine! And he starts running away, running out of the control room. And one of the other computer operators that's there is going, what's the matter, Director? And he goes, this is preposterous, it can't be true. Healthy minds, healthy bodies. That is the motto of all Salemites. And you see him running into the bathroom, and he grabs his little saw and he just starts sawing into his own head into the sink. And he goes, we're not like the freaks on the surface, content to mutilate their inferior flesh with crude machinery. And you see a splot as his cranial cap comes off and falls into the sink. And he tilts his head into the mirror and looks inside, and he sees that he's got the same chip inside his brain that Dusty does. And he goes, He's like, no, my brain! He's like, I've got no brain! And you can see that he's just completely lost it as he starts stumbling back into the control room, just, completely zoned out of it. Going, give me back my brain, please, key! And all the other operators are just running away from him, screaming, being like, Director? And he goes, my brain! And then you see a thud, 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 as a bunch of needles just get launched into him all at once. And he falls over with a splat. And you see this robot with MIB 36 coming in. And they're going, it's the MIB! Oh my god. That must be a deliberate reference to the Men in Black movie. That has to be. And you see a boom, 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 boom. As the robot starts firing more needles and just starts taking out all the other technicians in the room. And you see that as the screen that Alita's watching on goes fuzzy. And she's like, oh no! And Dusty's like, it seems I've initiated a little purge. And then you see Alita behind you! Well, you see, it's Buzzard. And then you see Buzzard who comes up from behind Alita and just grabs her in a chokehold from behind. And Dusty's like, yeah, well done, Buzzard. And you see a boost. What the hell? Oh, so you see this little slot opening in the walls. And you see a pressurized spray of water just blocking off Dusty from Alita and Buzzard. And she starts firing her gun with the blam, blam, blam. And it just hits the water wall. And you see Dusty's kind of fuzzy silhouette behind it. And he goes, yeah! Mere pistols cannot breach this wall of ultra-pressurized water. And he goes, I've lived too long to meet my end in a place like this. And he kicks open the wall, and you see this little chute open up with a gank. And he drops himself out of it with a so long! And Alita's just screaming out, Nova! And you see a snark as Buzzard just trying to keep putting the pressure on to decapitate Alita. Alita's like, I forgot that they keep a stable of restorers in their bodies. if I really want to put a stop to them. And she just rips her arm through both of his with the gun in it. And she's like, plug! As she puts a hand into his mouth, as she grabs her hand and puts it into his mouth, into his jaw. And then she goes the thump and just uses it to leverage him and flip him over her head. And she just slams him into the ground, just explodes him everywhere. And she's like, I've got to do this. And then she goes and frees Chaos. And he's like, Alita? And she's like, I don't understand. Is finding out that your brain is on a chip really such a maddening revelation? Is it so terrible that you have to give up everything to forget it? Ito will always be Ito to me. No one can ever replace him. So why did he have to? Chaos is just staring at her with sympathy as he goes, no matter how much love you feel for Ito, you cannot know everything in his mind or understand all of his suffering. You mustn't blame him. And she thinks back to thinking about how happy he was, living in that town. She wipes away her tears and she goes, you're right. Every once in a while you say something brilliant. And Chaos is like, hey, I'm just an expert when it comes to human weakness. But now's not the time for philosophizing. We can't let Father get away. And you see a Kya! As Destiny comes shooting out of the little chute he went down, and he does a little roll and just starts leaping up and running. I love this fruitcake, like just absolutely bonkers, man. And he goes, at last, Ladder is calling me. Through my own sheer brilliance, I've transcended my status as a Zalamite guinea pig. Time to be off. He goes and just runs onto the little escape hatch with an exit sign, and he opens it. And he said, kabloosh. And you see a stream of water just streaming in and sweeping him away. And he's just screaming, And he goes and hangs onto a little pole that's nearby. And over the speakers you hear, there's no escape, Father. And Destiny's like, Chaos? And he goes, you may think you've gotten free from us using that escape duct. But I understand the entire interior workings of the Granite Inn thanks to my psychometry power. And just a rehash of what psychometry was is the ability to glean information about events and people involved in an object's past just by touching it. The term was coined by American spiritual researcher J.R. Buchanan, 1814 to 1899, and they say see chapter 38. So Chaos goes, I've flooded all 8 escape hatches. The only way out is through the front gate. In other words, you're trapped like a rat. And he goes to another monitor where you see Alita running down the hallways, and he goes, can you hear me, Alita? Father's heading for block B7. Turn left at that corner. Alita comes to a screeching halt. He goes, this way! And you see a little Granite Inn cross section. And you see just where everyone is in there. And then you see Dusty just climbing out from the generator room where he was. Going, how dare you challenge me, son? And you see him just going across these wires like a little monkey bar. He goes, very well, let's put you to the test. Both Chaos and Alita are agents of my own karma. I'm a failure as a karmic researcher if I cannot overcome them. So he goes into this little futuristic looking sci-fi room with his little capsule in the middle. And he goes, Eli, time to get to work. Are you going to lie around all day in the bath? And Eli's like, you sound panicked. You must be in trouble, Professor. And you see Eli, I assume that's her skeleton in the bath. And you see her just as a skeleton with the muscles and the guts and everything on. And you see slowly like her getting a layer of muscle and skin and everything else as it starts bubbling around her. And she steps out of the bath. And she goes, feel like I've been reborn. And you see Alita just slowly making her way down the hallway. And then she just kind of stops and then leans against the wall. Chaos is like, what's wrong, Alita? And she goes, I'm just not feeling it. If the Zalamites are guinea pigs, then Nova's just as much a victim as the rest. It's all too tragic. And Chaos is silent for a moment, then he goes, can you go into the room on your right? And Alita's kind of confused as to why he's asking this, and she goes, click, and she steps into the room. And in this room, I think this is easier to kind of just show rather than explain. Oh, other way. Nope, other way. There we go. So you see just like a bunch of human bodies and everything fused together. You know, you see heads stuck together with arms, with brains and everything else. So you see all these different results of the experimentation that Dusty was doing. Alita's just staring in shock as she sees this. And Chaos goes, "This is merely the tip of the iceberg. They were traders, residents of the farms, abducted children, barjack prisoners, all perfectly innocent, ordinary people." And you see Alita's just kind of starting, like, is taken aback by this, and she's a little bit sickened. And the Chaos continues, "For the 20 plus years since he fled Salem to the surface, my father has mutilated scores of victims, enough to fill dozens of rooms like this one, all to satisfy his own scientific greed." And you see Alita's like, "Ugh," as someone tugs on her. And you see one of the ones nearby just grabbing her arm going, "Please, just kill me." And Alita whips her gun around and blows the bullet through the brains. And Chaos is like, "Alita!" And she turns around, she just starts laying waste to all the experiments around her. And then after she stopped, you see that she's just laid waste to the entire room with and she's like, "You were right, Chaos. The only people in the world who can stand up to Nova now are you and me. Personal grudges in Salem are beside the point. He does not deserve forgiveness." And you can see Alita's just furious with tears streaming down her face as she's seeing all of this. Behind her you have some Eli going, "Heh, still as emotional as ever, I see." And you see Alita, and you see... oh boy, you see Eli in this weird-ass looking dominatrix outfit with this little spiky shoulder guard and these little spiked armament on her arms. And she's got like this little metal leg brace on her. And Eli's like, "Have you ever thought about where you'll die?" And Eli's like, "I haven't. I don't need to. I have eternal youth and beauty thanks to the professor's nanotech. I am immortal. So any uncouth attempts at stopping his glorious work will not be tolerated." And you see a whip as she slams her arms out, and you see this laser beam just cutting by beside Alita. Alita just narrowly dodges at the last minute as you see a gizd blam and it slams into the wall behind her, and she fires off a few shots at Eli as she's ducking. And you see Eli be like, "Ha!" And she slams her arm down like this, and I think she's doing the same water wall that Dusty was. And you see bazap, bazap as the bullets explode into it. Yeah, I was right. So Chaos is like, "That's a water pressure converter. It compresses water to thousands of atmospheres of pressure, then emits at a supersonic speed. It can slice up steel like jelly." And you see a clank as one of these streams just cuts the top head of Alita's gun off, and she flips out of the way. And you see Eli's just waving this all around her and cutting little grooves into the room. And she's like, "It's really not much fun to torture cyborgs with this, as you don't feel pain from severed limbs." And Chaos is like, "She's adept at this. Alita's got too big of a handicap to fight her." And he's like, "Get away from there, Alita." And Eli's like, "Without the pain and pleasure of the flesh, life has no meaning or purpose. Love, dreams, and the piddling ideas of men, compared to the pleasures of the flesh, these are no more than mold festering on cheese." And she goes, "I am flesh. Flesh is everything." So Alita pulls out her sword from behind her, from her back, and whips it out with a shaking. And she's like, "It's too bad that Noah's nanotech can't fix the ugliness in your mind, you sausage woman." And Eli's just getting mad. She's like, "How dare you speak to me that way, you miserable little brain in a can?" And Chaos is like, "Are you going to fight her with a Damascus blade? It won't work. That water pressurizes the sort of tool that sharpens a Damascus blade. You can't stop it." And you see Alita crying out with a "Yeah!" She's just swinging the sword from behind her with a zwoosh. And you see Eli just putting out her water pressure as she's going, "You're going to use such a big swing from that distance? I've seen through you, you fool." She goes, "Pressurized shield." And Alita continues screaming, and she's just going swash. And you see the the blade just being dragged behind her. Oh. You see Alita just doing a single sharp swing, slicing right through the middle of Eli's shield. As she parts completely through the waterized shield. And Eli's like, no, this can't be. I can't die. And you see her pissed as she's starting to break apart as Alita's cut right through her. And she explodes with a boom. And Chaos is like, oh, of course. The tip of the blade broke through by surpassing the speed of the pressurized jet. And Alita's just like, my rage is ultrasonic. Oh, I love that. Then we get into Chapter 49, Ouroboros 2. I see a kink, 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 kink as Alita's just running off again. And Chaos is like, careful, careful! This is my father we're dealing with, Alita. He could have set up any kind of trap. And Alita's just like, ha ha ha, listen up, Chaos. I can feel every molecule of air moving around me right now. Even the faintest micro fluctuations in electrical flow within 15 meters are at my beck and call. I've never felt such triumphant surge in ki. I'll destroy him. No matter what traps or obstacles he throws in my way, I cannot be stopped. With a flying psychic, she just slams through a door and goes in. And you see Dusty just standing in front of this giant electrical generator with the symbol of the volt with the symbol of volt on it, with a little lightning bolt. And as Alita goes through the door, she flips it behind her and uses it to kick off and launch herself at Dusty. And he goes, give the angel her battle and the warrior her rest. And as Alita's flying towards him, she goes, so, you think you're a god now? And as she slices her blade through him, she sees it as just a projection again. And she's like, damn, not again. And you see her just going flying right behind him, going to one knee with the blade extended behind her like that. And you see Dusty still at the controls and behind her, going, well done. You landed properly despite the absence of your conscious mind. I suppose I'll need to keep my distance lest I get myself sliced to bits. And Chaos just goes, your Ouroboros infinite loop can't stop Alita now, Father. And he goes, the GIB operators may have been wiped out, but her tuned channel is still active. Therefore, I can still access the Ouroboros program I hacked into her line whenever I want. But I did not tap into the Ouroboros to toy with her this time. You see Dusty just gritting his teeth as his veins are starting to pop. He goes, listen to me. I came back from hell with a vengeance after suffering despair through despair and madness beyond the comprehension of the average mind. I will now delve into her dreams and bring the will of that humanoid weapon to heal. And he puts these two little receptors onto his mind. And he goes, you're free to observe from the safety of your world, my son. And Chaos is just staring in shock as he's watching through the monitors as Alita's diving back into her memories. And he goes, Alita. And you see Alita back in her, original leather outfit with the trench coat. And she's like, what? And she's looking around. She goes, so, the scrapyard, eh? And she's thinking back to all her foes and going, who's it this time? Makaku? Zapan? Let me warn you, no matter who you choose. And you hear, Alita! And she looks behind her. And she sees the original, Daisuke Ito in his black trench coat with his little warhammer nail on his shoulder. As he goes, sorry about the wait. Come on, let's go home. Alita's just staring at him, expressionless. And she's like, Ito. He's like, what is it, Alita? She goes, sorry about this. And she just punches through and just explodes his face as he falls with a splat. And Alita just closed her eyes and she slowly opens them as she looks. And she sees, she sees that she still hasn't been pulled out of the dream yet. And she sees Ito's corpse in front of her. She's like, the dream isn't over? And off to the side, on top of one of the towers on the platform, you see Dusty just standing there, watching her, eating his flan, going, we're just getting started. And the memory flashes again to Alita waking up in her bed, going, And Ito comes in. He goes, morning, Alita. She's like, good morning, Ito. He's like, you're moaning in your sleep. She's like, yeah, I had a terrible nightmare. And as she's looking into her coffee mug and sees her reflection staring back at her, she goes, no, this is wrong. This is a dream. It's Nova's trap. And you see it crash as she drops the coffee mug. And Ito just looks at her surprised. And Alita's like, Ito, I have to go. This is all inside my own dream. And Ito was like, a dream, huh? And he pinches himself. He's like, ow. He's like, nope, not a dream. Alita goes over to one of the walls and puts her hand on it. And she goes, you're right, it's so substantial. But in reality, this clinic was destroyed by Zapan over a decade ago. Ito is just still staring at her, kind of confused. And Alita continues, and you, Ito, you've lost your memory, and you're living with another identity. After we stopped Zapan, I nearly got executed. And Ito's kind of just looking at her, with sympathy, as she goes, my life was spared in exchange for working as an agent of Zalem. They took my freedom and sent me out in the desert alone to bring Nova to justice. I endured and wandered and fought and fought and fought for so long. You can see Ito just grabbing her in a hug as he goes, it's all right. Alita's like, no, it's not. And Ito's like, it's all right. Alita's like, it's a dream. This is all a dream. And you have Ito just going, I would rather give up my life than put you through so much sadness. And Alita just closes her eyes as she goes, oh, Ito, the home I wanted to come back to, the words I always wanted Ito to say. If only I could stay here forever. And you see a glorp as Ito just vomits up a bunch of blood. You see that Alita just rammed her fist right through his chest and his heart. And she's just got this broken look on her face. She's like, it's okay. It's just a dream. And you see her pulling her hand slowly out as Ito just slides off and falls down. And she's like, a dream. And you see her hand just shaking as she goes and looks in the mirror. And she's just got this absolutely terrified look on her face. And she's just like taken aback for a moment. She goes and pulls up Ito and goes, I'm sorry, I won't do it anymore. I won't disobey you anymore. Please come back. Somebody help. And you see that twisted fuck Destiny Nova again on the outside, on the roof, just looking down at this going, just one more push. And you see next the scene changes to the scrapyard where the arms come down to grab a bunch of the robot parts to drop them down on the hill. And you see back to Alita from way back at the beginning where she was just ahead, the upper body part, as she slowly closed her eyes. And Dusty walks up to her and goes, now this is a bit more like it. And he's like, and he starts laughing as he lifts up Alita out of the scrapyard. And she's like, who is that? He's scary. And you have Dusty going, your willpower level is very close to 0 at the moment. You don't even understand who you are anymore. He's like, hey. And you see Ito coming up from behind going, what's that, Professor? And Dusty goes, Ito, come and see. And now Ito comes up and he's like, a girl? Wait, is she alive? And Dusty's like, nice, isn't she? Nice, isn't she? She'll be tonight's test subject. And you see Ito just grabbing her away from Dusty and kicking him in the face. He goes, no, you can't. She doesn't deserve that, the poor thing. Dusty's like, hey, I found her. And as Ito's kind of cradling her in his arms, Alita's like, this one is reassuring. And Dusty's like, well, it shouldn't be a problem. She can drown the honeyed ooze of inner peace until a blade of instinct rusts away and can never be used again. He's like, hey. Excuse me a minute, throat's running dry. You see, back in the little workshop, they've hooked her up to the tubes again. Ito's like, she'll need a name. What'll it be? Dusty's like, what do you think of Galley, Ito? And he's like, yeah, sure, that works. From this day onward, you are Galley. That is such a terrible name. Just for anyone curious, he spelled it as Gally. Leader's like, Galley? And Ito's like, now we'll need to restore your body for you. Oh my god. And you have Dusty just pulling up the octopus body of, from Hunter x Hunter, the octopus dude, Ikalgo. You've got Dusty pulling up a body that looks like Ikalgo's lower half. And you've got a little design behind him where you see Alita's face just stuck onto that body as a design. And Dusty's like, what do you think of this, Ito? And Ito's like, what in the world is that? Dusty just comes up and puts an arm around her and is like, listen, Galley's life is ours now. Let's enjoy it. And Ito's like, don't make it sound so vulgar. I want to make her beautiful. Dusty's like, sure. You want a life-size doll you can put together and dress up how you like. And Ito's like, that's not the worst idea. And you see, as Chaos is watching this, he's screaming, Alita! And you see him just grabbing his, clenching his fist. And you see all this electricity just coming off of him. And you see his hair just getting frizzled and standing up. As he goes, I'm going to release you from the shackles of your dream now. I can expand the use of my psychometry, access the computer chips themselves, and destroy the program. I was too afraid to ever seriously attempt this before. But I know that I can do it. And he goes, Psycho activate! As he slams both of his palms into the computer monitors. And you see Dusty watching this from inside the program as there's a slight glitch in the sky. And he goes, excuse me, the fool. Running Ouroboros through the tune channel means that the program is under dual layers of protection. And you see back in the room, the Chaos has just got blood streaming out of his eyes and his ears and his mouth as he falls backwards. Excuse me. And Dusty goes, one biological brain cannot overcome the twin hypercomputers of Zalem and Granite in. It's no competition. Now taste your own powerlessness, my son. And you see in the next page that Chaos is kind of just gripping his heart. He's like, it's like my heart. It's not beating. He goes, he starts laughing again. He goes, I'm stronger than you think, old man. And just Shonen Hero style, he jumps up and smashes his fist into the computer again. And you see it just all just breaking apart. You see a fum as you see Chaos starting to catch on fire. And he goes, you want my life? You can have it, you piece of shit. But you won't like how things turn out. I never thought I would say this, but Chaos looks like a badass in this panel. Like, holy. And you see a ting. As you see back on Zalem in the Ground Inspection Bureau, the headquarters. So you prack, as you see an electrified outline of Chaos making his way into the computer rooms as he's just unleashing his energy into the Zalem computers itself. And you see a kaboom as one of the lower little rungs on Zalem explodes outwards. For anyone that's seen Watchmen, the scene where Dr. Manhattan kind of comes in and is glowing, that's what Chaos kind of looks like in that. And you see, as you see his, kind of electrified projection falling into what I assume is the program. So you see kind of this half-brain simulation with half the brain kind of serving as the bowl, and on top of it is the flat area of Zalem and the scrapyard. And Chaos goes, there, that's Ouroboros. What a tricky construct. If I attempt to simply shatter the program, it will cause Alita's mind to break along with it. But there's no time to waste. And he goes, my heart has stopped, my body won't last long. You see back in the scrapyard imagination, you see that they've built up Alita's body and Ito's just doing his inspections inside of it. And you see Dusty off to the side just casually observing as he's eating his flan. And he goes, months have already passed in this dream world. And he goes, is there anything you really want, dear Galley? I could bring you a friend. And you see Alita's kind of reverted to, a little girl. Who's kind of just fidgeting all adorably and going, oh, I want flan. And Destiny's kind of just like, huh? He's like, fine, but only one bite. And you see that Ito's living out his dream in this, where he's dressed up Alita in this giant dress, with this little ribbon and these giant glasses, trying to make her look all adorable and cute. And she goes, someday I want to be a doctor like Ito. You have Ito off to the side going, even your mechanical joints will get rusty if you don't at least go outside and get some exercise now and then. And Alita's like, but I like reading books more. You have Dusty going, it's hard to imagine that this docile little girl is the same person as that ferocious Alita. If her new personality takes root, I can perform a little nano operation on her brain in reality, eliminate all memory of Panzerkunst, and then I've won. And you see this little black cat just jumping up on the windowsill with a little ding as you see the little bell on its collar. And Galley's like, oh, Alita's back. And Dusty just spits out his tea in shock. As Ito's like, look at the state of you. Were you fighting with the stray dogs again? The cat's just like, meow. And you see that the male cat that Ito kept years ago, way back in chapter 1, is called Alita in this reality. And Galley's like, oh, the poor thing. And Dusty's like, this cat. It's the one thing I can't manage. I ought to just poison the wretched beast already. And you see a glint as the cat looks off to the side. And you see later that Galley's sitting on the roof in her dress, just blowing bubbles as she's looking out over the scrapyard. And Dusty comes up behind her and goes, are you happy, Galley? If you like bubbles, I can have the solution installed within you to use at any time. And you see him doing a little infograph of her having like this little bottle inside her chest cavity that she could use to blow out bubbles. And she's like, no. Are you in love with anyone, Uncle Nova? Dusty's like, in love? He's like, like there was that woman I wanted to dissect once. And you see him just watching as she's blowing more bubbles, and then as they're flying off across the scrapyard. Dusty's just kind of silently contemplating for a moment. Then he takes off his glasses. Good Lord. Okay. This is such a powerfully impactful scene because for all this time you've kind of just had these glass voids into Dusty's eyes, which kind of really deep, I want to say, impersonalized him. And now that you see that he's actually got, some normal looking eyes, other way, sorry, these normal looking eyes, and he's watching out across this, it really does a lot to humanize him in that one panel. I'll probably touch on this more when I'm actually ready to review this volume and the rest of Alita, but that was actually a really well done moment. And you have him just going, I wonder what's been driving me all of this time. What is this emotion that leaps within my chest? If only there were no tragedy or death in the world, and I could believe in nothing but joy, then I would find myself wishing with all of my heart that this moment could last forever. Oh. Good. Oh. And then you see a giant kashak as a lightning bolt comes slamming down into it. And you see a giant boom. And you see Galley and Dusty just looking off over to the side. And you see a ga 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 ga. And you see Barjack's centaur form right on the edge of the scrapyard as he starts galloping in with a sword drawn. And Ito's like, Galley, Professor, come inside now. And Galley just runs after what Ito. Dusty's like, take care of Galley, Ito. He's like, I will, Professor. And Galley calls out, "Uncle!" And you see Dusty putting his glasses back on as he goes, "I summon thee, Mars King." And you see Gurm, as you see this giant, scrappy-looking toy robot coming up from behind, and you see Dusty just grabbing onto his eye stalk with a "Kya!" And you see Mars King, size 320 meters, weight 808,000 tons, dream scale, weapons king hand, king cannon, etc. Characteristics unbeatable. And you see Dusty going, "I commend you for breaking through the electronic protection, Den. Or should I say, Chaos's mental image of destruction? But I swear to you, Galley will not be yours." You see Den just slamming his foot down as he grabs a sword and tries to slice it towards the Mars King. And guy just grabs the sword in mid-drop with his little clamper. And it goes king hand with the other hand, just backslaps Den and sends him flying. And you have Dusty going, "The present becomes the past in the span of an instant. Every man will one day die. Destiny triumphs over human wisdom in a mad, uncontrollable arc, as though it's always meant to be." You have him going, "Conqueror cannon," as a little chest cavity opens up and he starts bombarding Den. And he goes, to the last I curse everything about this universe. I curse the second law of thermodynamics." And you see the second law of thermodynamics, the law of increasing entropy. For example, a cup of hot tea will cool off without any further energy expended, but the reverse cannot be true. Taken to its ultimate conclusion, this states that the universe itself will eventually reach heat death, in which everything is cold, with no planets or concept of time. You see Zidum, as you see inside what I assume is the Mars King. You see Ito sitting next to Galley going, "Don't worry, we're safe here. I'm sure the professor will drive that monster away." And as Galley's watching this, her heart is going ba-bum, ba-bum, ba-bum. And he's like, "Ito, I need to fight too." And he's like, "Why? That's silly. Why would you fight?" And you see the black cat coming up and just sitting on Alita's shoulder and going, "I fight for my own sake." Oh boy, and you see Alita's finally woken up again as she's back in her current state, and she goes, "I knew that this was a dream, but I've enjoyed it enough. It's time to go. Guess I'm a bad girl after all." Nita goes, "Please be careful, Alita." And you see a giant flash in the Mars King. Stacy's like, "What nonsense is this? This is my dream. Don't destroy my dream, please." And you see Den and Chaos just going, "Alita." And you see this giant, like, electrical explosion in this double page spread as you see Alita waking up behind Dusty, finally out of her dream. And she looks back around at him and he goes, "If only this were still my dream." And he pulls out a gun and you have tears just streaming down his face. And he goes, "I would have done anything to keep you safe. Anything to protect that eternal moment." And he fires off a shot and rips through Alita's shoulder. And she comes up next to Dusty and just locks eyes with him for a moment, sympathy on her face. And then with a shud, she cuts off his head and it goes flying into the generators. And with a buzz, buzz, he gets electrocuted and fried. And Alita just kind of closes her eyes and looks away and goes, "I would have done the same." We have chapter 50, Last Blade. So, just a quick update on this before we go any further. So it's reaching about 50 minutes on this video now. But since we only have the 2 chapters left to go, might as well just push through and get to it and just finish off with the sake of a longer video. So yeah, we'll keep going. We have chapter 50, Last Blade. We pick up where we left off with Den. Oh, so you see a trail of destruction on the way under to the little scrapyard junkyard under Zalem. And you see just a trail of destruction as robots and tanks and cannons and everything have been tossed off to the side and got giant holes punched in them. And you see Factory 11, 5.2 kilometers, Station Gate, 12.5 kilometers. And you see a swarm of missiles flying with a kwabam! And you see Den just rushing through this, shield in front of him, the other arm holding his spear, with the Ra! You have all the soldiers going, "Aye, it's a demon! Help us, Holy Zalem!" And you see with the boom, they all just get blown apart. You see more soldiers screaming, "Ah, it's coming this way!" And you see Den going, "All I see are the chickens. Why has Mother Duck seized all activity?" And you see Mother Duck in Barjack slang. This refers to the official factory mobilized troops made up of deckmen and netmen robots. These are distinguished from the chickens the locals hired as mercenary forces. And you see Den asking, "Koyomi, are you alive?" And Koyomi's like, "Wah! I'm just fine, Master Den." And you see that she's hidden inside his little gorget, is taking pictures of what's going on. He's like, "Oh, look at all the people. We warned them to evacuate." And she's seeing all these people just fleeing, going, "Hey, it's your fault for not listening to reason. Trample them, boss." You see, his Den's just completely running these people over as he's making his way through the city. And he's like, "Ha ha ha, are you not afraid of death, Koyomi?" She's like, "My ears have been ringing so bad, my head's in the clouds. It's like I'm dreaming. So no, I'm not scared. Fury and all the others are dead now." And then she's just like got these dazzling eyes, like, "So, once we die, we can join them as stars looking in the sky, looking down on Zalem from far above." Den's like, "That would be something." You hear her voice going, "Coward!" He's like, "What?" And you see in front of him, you see fizzling into shape Chaos's little electronic astral projection. And he goes, "You speak boldly for someone who isn't risking his own life, Den." And Den just spears right through the projector and went, "How dare you?" And Koyomi's like, "What is it, Master?" He's like, You are not like the old Chaos. What happened to you?" And Chaos goes, "Nothing is more terrifying than not knowing yourself. It wasn't until I met Alita that I finally came into my own. Den, you are nothing but an artifice, a false creation, a splinter of my own mind. You have no life of your own, so you whipped up your own army and caused so much bloodshed. Do you think these crimes will go unpunished? Stop this war, release Koyomi, and return to my body." You have Den going, "Artifice? You dare call me an artifice?" And he goes, "You call these acts an artifice? A figment of imagination?" Excuse me, I need to get more water. My throat's running dry from all the screaming. And you see him just sweeping his lance through a bunch of buildings. Koi was like, "Ah!" And Den goes, "How much do you really know about me? I was born in a tide of overpowering rage." And you see a young Chaos just leaping onto this bandit and just wailing on him. And he goes, "But it was crucial I learned to control that furious energy on my own." And you see that as he's doing that, Chaos did it with such force that he literally snapped his arms in like 3 different places. And you see that the pain brought him out of being Den and back into being Chaos. And he's just holding his limp hands, he's crying, goes, "Ah, it's like, what, it hurts." And he goes, "It seemed that to this body and to all others, I was an unwanted outsider, so I had to hide myself from sight. Age 15 or 16, something happened, and I flew into a rage that nearly killed Nova and his manservant." And you see teenage-looking Chaos has just beaten Bazard to a bloody pulp as he's standing on him. And you see Destiny's also just leaning on these on this rubble behind him in a similar manner. He's like, "That's not you, is it, Chaos?" He goes, "Nova saw through you and noticed me." And then you see on the next page that he's got Chaos and Den's first robotic body both on these operating tables. Chaos goes, "Wake up, Den." And he's like, "What is this?" And as he's eating his flan, Destiny's like, How does your new body feel? Excuse me. He goes, in principle, you're actually just a puppet being remotely controlled by an EPR transmitter molecularly sewed into Chaos's heart and central nervous system. But in simple practice, you can now move about free from Chaos's bonds. He goes, you see, I have a fondness for people like you who possess great mental mass, as you might call it. In fact, your mass is so great, you're in danger of gravitational collapse. Now you can achieve what you desire. And you see the first Chaos robot or Den robot body wandering off into the desert. He goes, I left to wander the wilderness and seek my own discipline, as the warrior does, questioning myself the entire way. He goes, I rage, therefore I am. But this endless fury that cannot be quelled no matter how hard I try, whence does it stem? He goes, I was born without a body, and I know nothing of peace or love. Nay, for I am the child of fate, the spirit of the earth's rage and vengeance. Even this body is dwarfed by the size of my fury. It requires an immortal vessel, one that would better suit my fury and that could only be found in the great empires of the soil. At last I have found my calling. And you see his robot body's wearing the traditional kind of samurai armor, and you see him standing on this outcrop building as he raises his sword above him as he's looking at Zalem. And he goes, I swore to bring Zalem down to earth. And Chaos goes, but you failed. Accept the truth and admit defeat. Den goes, I have not lost yet. And you see him just rampaging in front of him, rampaging through it again. And you see as he's running through, someone comes up going, no, please wait. He's like, ah. And you see the bar owner, whose name I cannot recall at this point, going, please, my daughter, give me back my Koyomi. Koyomi's like, Dad. And Den comes to a stop in front of him. And she calls out, hey, you worthless drunk, what the hell are you doing? And he's just crying. He's like, please, give me back my daughter. And Koyomi's like, just die already. Crush him, Master Den. Den's watching this. He's kind of contemplated for a moment. He grabs Koyomi out from below, and she's like, stop it, what are you doing? And he's like, oh. And then as he's hoisting up, Koyomi's like, no, no. And Den's like, you said that you were not ready, you were not afraid to die, Koyomi. And he goes, no, Master Den, why are you doing this? And you have him crying out, Koyomi. And then you have Chaos going, stop this, Den. Den's like, you called me an artifice? Then demonstrate how you will stop me. Chaos is like, no! And Koyomi's just crying with tears streaming down her face. She's like, no! I don't want to die! Oh, boy. And you see that she's kind of, she's also wet herself as she's screaming and struggling. I don't want to die! And Den just lets her drop from above. Her father just comes running up as she's falling. And he catches her right at the last minute she drops down. And he starts throwing up blood. He goes, Koyomi, are you okay? He's like, oh, I was like, Dad? And you see Den just running off again, leaving her behind. And he goes, I am not merely a part of you. And Chaos is like, Den. The next page, you see a giant Gashank as one Den's arm just torn off. As you see this robot army just slowly making its way towards him, just firing off all these shots. And Chaos goes, the GIB's explosion must have jolted the flagging defense system back into activity. And you have Chaos Den going, I live by the steel and will die by the steel. And he screams out with a rah as he grabs a sword and rushes into battle. And you have Sors salutis e virtuitus me non contraria est defectus semper in Ungaria. Fate is against me in health and virtue, driven on and weighed down, always enslaved. It goes, Hac in hora sine mora, cordis pulsum tangait, quid por sortem sternit fortem, mecem oms plangait. So at this hour, without delay, pluck the vibrating strings, since fate strikes down the strong man. Everyone weep with me. From O Fortuna Carmina Burana. You have Koyomi just cradling her father. And she goes, someone help! Call for a doctor! You see all the citizens just kind of hesitantly stepping out in the street and surrounding them. You see some doctors coming up to try and help her. And her goes, Koyomi, please don't leave me again. And so she gives him a hug and she goes, you smell like booze. And you see all the citizens standing by, just looking on as this fight's going on. Like, look where he is. He's gonna do it. And you see Koyomi going, Master Den! And you see that one of the little wires coming down from Zalem is hidden onto the surface. Den's climbed up all the way to the top where that little holder is, and he's standing next to it. His body's been completely destroyed, like the centaur part's been completely torn off. He's only got one arm just riddled with bullet holes, this giant gaping wound in him. I think there, if you can see that. And as he steps up to it, he goes, I was born without a body, and I lived without a care. My blade fed on nothing but hatred, and now you will taste it. And he brings the blade down to slice through it with a whoosh. And as he's about to strike down, and as he strikes, the blade just snaps off with a ka-ching. And you see Den just kind of staying silent for a moment as he goes, I will not return to Chaos's empty husk. It is with great pride that I choose death. And you see a crunch as you see him just starting to explode and fall apart. And you see down below, as all the citizens are watching this, Koyomi's taking out her camera and taking pictures. As she goes, I'll show the world, Master Den. And she's thinking, this is why he let me go. Then we get to chapter 51, Epitaph. And I love this little cover page showing, Alita kind of throughout all the volumes in all her various costumes and designs up to this point. And you see a giant bazat and a ba-bump is back with Chaos's real body. He goes, ah, as he grabs his heart. He's like, cough, cough. And you see that half his hair has been burnt away in the fire. And he's like, hang in there, Chaos. He's like, it's like, Alita, are we in? It's like the Granite Inn. And he's like, wait, you can speak again? And she's like, has he turned into Den? And Chaos like, Den is dead. And you see back in the reactor room where Dusty was, you see he's starting to vibrate and gonk, 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 because everything's starting to heat up, ready to explode. And you see Dusty's headless body kind of just scraping against the ground. You see a giant kaboom. And you see Chaos and Alita standing outside, watching the base just implode on itself. It's like, what a long, long day. Felt like it could have been a century. And Chaos goes, I'm heading to the scrapyard now. What about you? Alita's like, me? And she's like, oh, that's right. I'm free. And Chaos goes, as a matter of fact, there's a project I simply must bring to life there. Alita's like, what's this? As he pulls out those little paper and hands it to her. And she's like, I got it from Lou during the tour of Farm 21 yesterday. You see him thinking back to Lou saying, I was really moved by your final Radio Chaos show. It's kept me up at night trying to think of a way to contribute to a peaceful understanding between sides. Ultimately, I think the problem is that people can't come and go between Salem and the surface. The solution is a permanent connection between the two. Or in other words, the construction of a tower that is 2,500 meters tall. The simulations show that with all the scrap materials there, it should be quite possible using the local building methods. Come on. And Lou's like, I call it the Tower of Salem. What do you think? I knew it. A Tower of Babel reference. And you see her back in the little robot bike that Alita's riding as it prints out the paper and rips it off and gives it to Chaos. Chaos like, are you sure you won't get in trouble for suggesting this? You're a Zalemite. And Lou's like, oh, it's our little secret for now. If the director finds out, he'll do more than fire me. And you see Chaos just going, I don't know how many decades or centuries it'll take, but I think it's worth trying. Alita's just staring at him and she goes, his eyes, they're bright with hope. So Chaos just kind of slaps a hand on her. He's like, so come with me, Alita. Alita's like, maybe someday when I feel like it. But for now, I'm going to head to a fishing village in the west so I can see Figure again. Now that I've got nothing to do, I feel, I don't know, weird. It's like I don't know if I should be crying or laughing. And you see Chaos just grabbing her chin as he tries to go in for a kiss. He's like, times like these are when you smile. And Alita just slaps him and sends him off flying. And Chaos just goes, ha ha ha, may we meet again, as he waves and just bounces away. And Alita's like, he bounces back now. And you see a crook and a geck as his little miners dig their way up from underground and starts following Chaos as he goes, let's go! You see on the next page, Alita's back in the little dune buggy driving off. And she goes, I seem to remember that Yugo once asked if I had a dream. But I don't. Not now, not ever. I've just been tossed back and forth by whatever's happening around me. It feels empty. And she goes, oh man, can't wait to see Figure 4 again. And as she's driving, she sees this little kid in front of her with the what? And she slams right through him before she can slam on the brakes. The little kid just goes flying behind her. He's like, oh no! And you see a thud and a thwump as the kid goes flying behind her and lands in a heap. He's like, ah, ah, ah. And then she's just like, that's it. I'm not cut out for driving. No more vehicles. And she gets out and goes to look at the kid. She's like, I need to help him. He's like, but what was this little child doing out here? Up in the mountains in the middle of the night. And suddenly the little kid just jumps up and wraps himself around Alita as he grabs her. And he goes with a Kya! Oh, what the hell, man. And you see this little countdown timer in the child, which is like a real robot's head, counting down for 6 seconds. And you see a beep and a boom. What the hell? What in the absolute hell, man? So you see a giant boom explosion as the bomb gets set off, and you see pieces of Alita just flying out everywhere as there's a mini crater where she and the robot just exploded. And you see, yeah! There's off in the mountains off to the side. You see Destiny's creepy ass body just staring down at this laughing, this maniacal laugh. And you see these implanted his face into his stomach. And he goes, ah, this is uncomfortable. He's like, come now, it's elementary. Who doesn't create backups of their most vital systems? And you see him rushing down to the wreckage of Alita as you see this little ship making its way towards him. And he goes, ooh, found a scrap of brain. Yay! So then we have the conclusion of the current chapter where it goes, currently the previous chapter is the canonical end of Battle Angel Alita. The story of Alita eventually continued in Battle Angel Alita Last Order. The following pages are another vision of Battle Angel Alita published after this ending but before Last Order. Due to many requests from fans of the series for the original material, it has been included in this edition. It is not Alita canon. Think of it as a side story if you wish. You may find the more poetic touches of this material entertaining in a different way than the expanded view of the world presented in Last Order. Please enjoy. So, that... I shouldn't have been surprised that that was how the series kind of ended in the original run, you know, with Dusty, the unkillable asshole, just, you know, showing that he still survived. I don't know how I feel about it yet. I guess I'm going to have to figure it out once we dive into Last Order and see kind of where the series continues and picks off from there. But with that, I guess I finally caught up and concluded my journey with the original run of Battle Angel Alita. I have to say I did enjoy the series quite a bit. I'm not going to do like a review or thoughts thing just yet because I feel like I need a little bit of time to process and get my thoughts together before I kind of start, talking about how I felt, favorite moments, and all of that. I will say I did like Den's ending and kind of the samurai spirit kind of ending they went with him, where he's like, I live by the sword, I die by the sword. And it feels almost fitting that, even though his attempts at the ending were futile and he never managed to cut down Zalem, at least he died, doing what he set out to do. Or not set out, at least he died, proud of the way he lived and proud of, the dream he pursued. So, yeah, I think I'm going to probably cut it off there. I'm going to try to process and gather together thoughts for a review of some kind in the next little while that I'll hopefully have out. And this is probably something I'll pose to you guys as well if you want to give me your takes on it. Because right now my thought is I'll go back because I know I'm missing the volume reviews for at least I think volume 3 and 4. Potentially maybe 2 as well. I'll have to go back and look to see if I've done one for that yet or not. So if not, my original plan was to do individual volume reviews for 2, 3, 4, and then 5, and then kind of talk about my thoughts on the series overall. But if you feel like you prefer just one video where I just kind of summarize all my thoughts of all the volumes and everything up until the ending, just like in a longer video, I can do something like that as well. So I'm pretty open to either or. But yeah, apart from that, like I said, I'll probably take a short break for the next little while before I dive into Last Order, just because the next few months at work are going to be really busy for me, and I won't really have as much time to kind of dedicate to read-throughs and stuff with as in depth as I would like to. So I'll probably wait till at least April, May-ish before I dive into Last Order. Because I'll be less busy then. I'll be more in the zone to kind of actually talk about it in a meaningful way. But in the meanwhile, over the next few months, I will start collecting the Last Order volume so I can get ready for eventually diving into Last Order. So this is not me saying, I'm never going to dive into Last Order, but there will be a small hiatus before I do dive into that. And like I mentioned in my last video, if anyone wants to help support me, help me get together some funds to buy Battle Angel Alita Last Order, that'd be really great and I'd really appreciate it. I'll drop my Ko-fi link in the comments or the description below, and if everyone wants to send a couple of funds my way, that'd be really, really great. But apart from that, I hope you all have enjoyed the Battle Angel Alita journey thus far. I've really enjoyed it a lot as well. I'm glad I gave this series a chance. It's definitely become one of my favorite ones. As one of my favorite ones that I've read. So yeah, looking forward to diving into it in Last Order. Until next time, this is Ash. I'll talk to you all later.